All right, so for the sake of clarity, I'm going to take away the pink highlighting. So if you would like to analyze this any more closely, hit pause on these two shots, and then you can take a look again more closely. So again, I want to convey that what we just went over is that this student used intentional organization with her paragraphs. See if you can answer how. Pause the video now and think about how we know that. How we know that is that she used a small paragraph on Antony's initial goodness and then changed over to a paragraph about his change. So that seems an intentional progression to me. And then, so Miss Wesley just walked in, and I don't know what I was talking about, and I can't rewind the video. So sorry if I was in the middle of a thought and just left. So moving forward to the diction, I just want to reiterate what the diction was supposed to show you. The diction illustrated that this writer used the same word choice as the thesis would indicate. That's a highly desirable characteristic of a paper. So now I'm going to take a look and identify what areas in this paper, to me, resonate as analysis of diction. And I'm going to highlight that in green. So see if you can do the same thing where you try to look at and identify where this writer actually went about analyzing diction specifically. See if we highlight the same areas. So you should pause. I'm going to pause for a second up here, pause for a second down there. So you pause at the same time to see if you can find it. Here's pause 1. And here's pause 2. And pause 2.5. Okay, here's where I think this writer analyzes diction. Here, his diction is ripe with imagery of rotting. Apparently, Rome literally reeks of foul deeds. I like the rhetorical move of italicizing foul deeds to show that that's what she is referring to. And then down here, all of this bad stuff she talks about explain that he invites dogs and chaos into the capital, fulfilling previous omens. So I thought that that connection was clear, as was the twisted sense of power. So she does well there. Next, I want to talk to you about, let's see, we went over intentional word choice. We looked at close scrutiny of diction in the play. We discussed intentional organization. Now I want to go over with you the transitions. Clearly, this writer knows what she's doing. She reiterates the thesis in some innovative ways, explaining that he has a poisoned psyche, a deteriorated demeanor. What a great way to subtly reiterate the thesis. He also turns into a murderer and becomes transformed as the result of removing the rightful ruler. We also hear reiteration of the thesis throughout the paragraphs when she says things like, I'm removing the rightful ruler, and how his personal goals change. So we have a clear line of sight. There's no extraneous plot summary. This is superb. I like this line too, in order to compensate for the foul deeds. Compensating, that's a good idea. I feel like that reiterates the thesis as well. Transitionally speaking between paragraphs, I thought that these two little phrases would add some style to her writing and make the reading a little bit more smooth. So I'm going to put these in and then get right back to you. All right, here's what I put in. I wrote, and Antony takes a big whiff of this intoxicating stench. I know that that seems informal, but I can pull it off because I talk about how his foul deed reeks. So the idea of having a big whiff of that foul deed makes him intoxicated and thus poisoned transitions. So in a way, that serves to tie together the content. So I'm going to draw a nice arrow here. Down here, I wrote an illness of the ego. So to end the paragraph, she says his political aims and personal goals are slanted toward himself, not the people. Antony's change not only illustrates his own poisoning, it also highlights how political aims of rebel forces are turned away from the desires of the people toward their own self-serving goals, an illness of the ego. So here, although you can't see the thesis, I sort of tied this all the way back to my thesis in a cheeky little allusion, because I remind my reader that we're talking about a social sickness and what that might do. So I think that that accomplishes the goal. Last thing for this video, I'm going to try and go through the paragraph and highlight ideas which I think transition within the paragraphs. We just talked about transitioning between paragraphs. Now I'm actually going to go in the paragraph itself and dissect it. After analyzing this paper, I found that the writer does not use a lot of things like accordingly, therefore, and also. Rather, what she consistently does is rename the things that have just come to pass. I want to try and explain it in words, and then I'll see if I can draw a picture to help explain it. So, here, I highlighted in blue. She comes off the topic sentence and then says in the beginning of the play. In the next sentence, she continues, Brutus even says. That implies not only did this happen, but this happened. Caesar also notes, again, not only in the beginning of the play is it this, but it's this and this. Here's where she makes a rhetorical turn. He's innocent. Although all this illustrates his innocence, however, after the rightful ruler is overthrown, and then we're ready to move on to the next point. The blue continues, it affirms, yep, he was meek and mild, but here's my turn, he's transformed. So then we have some list of examples. This is where the writer takes what has been talked about in one sentence, renames what is occurring, and moves forward. He wants Rome to rot. Not only does he want Rome to rot, he also encourages the people. And then here, it's as though she's saying, and accordingly thus hence, he invites both dogs and more. This mentality illustrates Antony's twisted sense of power. So here, I'm renaming and actually connecting what this writer implies. She could make her transitions a little bit more louder at points. For instance, I think between these two lines, the transitioning is weak. He also encourages the people to fire the traitors' houses. No evidence suggests a will exists. I think that we really need something in here which states, not only does he incite havoc for the commoners, but he fabricates realities to help them become more angry. No evidence suggests a will exists. Like, that was abrupt for me. So she continues to use that. And sorry, dramatic pause. She continues to use that same sense of folding in on one another throughout the rest of this. So let's see if I can illustrate that with a ridiculous picture. It's like here we're moving along in yellow, and then it's like she takes a red pen, backs forth to the end of that sentence, then moves forward again. So it's, look, he invites the dogs and chaos, Antony's twisted sense. That's the renaming of what was in yellow. And then before she makes her next point, which is Antony's change, and reiterating that, she doubles back, discusses the political aims, and then goes into his change and how they illustrate it. If that didn't make any sense, then sorry, but I hope you see what I'm saying. Okay, so what we've learned through this video is transitions both between paragraphs and within the same paragraph, as well as close scrutiny of diction. So keep clicking down for more fun learning. Goodbye. Bye.